Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum again, everybody. So before we get started on our next session on Qadar, I just wanted to give you guys a update on our Living the Quran series. As you guys might know, we are having this monthly series at the Diyanet Center of America with Dr. Yamina, and we are exploring living the Quran. So what does it mean to live the Quran? And we started with what does it mean to live Bismillah? And our latest session was on tasbih. So previously we also touched on gratitude and istighfar and what are ayat. So all the sessions are on YouTube or on our YouTube channel. They are in a playlist called Living the Quran. And our last three sessions are actually like video recordings, so you can follow along on the screen as well, which we're really proud of. So please do take a look, like, comment, give us feedback. And for those who want to be a bit more involved, you can tell us which parts you really liked the most. Like you can give us timestamps and we can make them into shorter clips that we can share on our social media, inshallah. So we would love to get your input on what's really striking or what one thing that you learned or stuff like that. And inshallah, share with your network. All the sessions we've had have been really, really beneficial. Our session on istighfar was um, really well liked, I would say, and people keep coming back to it. And I think the tasbih session was like that for me. I really benefited a lot. So just letting you guys know that this is there. And once I upload this session on Qadar, I will make sure to link it on our YouTube channel too. Another thing is, again, this is happening in person. So if you are relatively local, we would love to have you. We will have another one last Saturday of February, inshallah. So please be on the lookout for that. We will share it in our groups and in the newsletter. Okay. With that, I will go back to our main halakha topic. So I thought this week was great in terms of what people have been sharing about the heart work. So thank you to everyone who is sharing reflections and keeping us thinking and helping us reflect together. As you guys know, we are reading the 26th word by Imam Nursi. This word is about Qadar, divine determining, um, and free will. And this is our, I believe, sixth or seventh session. So last week we started reading the third topic in here. And I'll just share a few of my notes and what I've been contemplating over the week. So one thing that stuck with me was when there is an option or a urge or opportunity to do good, my response that I need to cultivate is just, do it. And we talk about this a lot, that iman, belief is action. So this is something that I'm trying to be more conscious about in my life so that I feel like I am an active agent and I am making decisions that I am responsible for. And I need to like step into that instead of being passive or taking things for granted. So it's all part of this way of thinking and living, inshallah. So I tried this week, I was trying to be extra thoughtful that when opportunities presented themselves, or when I guess Allah put opportunities in front of me, I tried really to go for that. This is an option, and I can choose. I'm choosing to say yes and doing this thing that is good, because I don't want to miss this opportunity, and that little bit of good, if done with the right intention, can really make a difference for me. So that was one thing that I was thinking about. And the other thing, as we will, as we look at the text here, right, we wanted to read the introduction, the first two paragraphs here. So we looked at proofs for divine determining, and the verse that we are studying from the Quran here is, nor anything fresh or dry, green or withered, but is inscribed in a clear book. So we were reflecting on everything being written, and what are some examples from our life every day that we can witness, observe, that can tell us or that can help us confirm this verse. Again, on the methodology that we're learning from the Quran, from the Sunnah of the Prophet, that is really like outlined here in the Risale-i, is looking at these two books together. So the book, the Quran as we have it, and the book of the universe. So we had this claim, everything is inscribed in a clear book. And so the examples that we were given were, okay, look at the balance, regularity, adornment, differentiation, giving of form. The verses, the signs of the mighty Quran, inscribed by divine power and called the universe, confirm these statements. So we looked at seeds, for example, and how they are testifying to this claim, this principle, this rule that everything is written. Seeds and grains are subtle containers appearing from the workbench of B, and in each of them, there's a tiny index, we said. So we know that very, very tiny seed in it has this program that tells us what it's going to be. And then we talked about two different kinds of qadar here, which I thought was really neat way of like thinking about it. So the first kind of qadar we said is when I'm looking at a seed and knowing what kind of tree will come out of the seed. And we're saying, okay, this is measured, it has a form, it's not going to grow randomly, it's planned, it's written, it's under control. So this seed will, if the right conditions are provided and it is in Allah's wisdom for it to grow, it'll grow into an apple tree. And this seed will grow into a peach tree, and this seed will grow into a tulip or something, right? So this is the first kind of qadar, which is uh, parts of things that we can know. I don't want to say for sure, but we can we can trust. And then the second kind of qadar, we said it's the unknown side of qadar. So I can know that this seed is an apple tree seed, but I don't know, for example, once it grows, who's going to eat those apples, how many fruits it will give, how long it will live, etc. So these are the unknown parts. And the way that we can look at this picture is take the first kind of qadar, which is the parts that we do know and that we can rely on. And when I confirm those parts, I have a sort of, I establish trust for the second kind, which is the part that I don't know. Um, so, okay, I think I've said enough, and I know you guys have had reflection, so I'll stop here to see if anyone else would like to say anything, and then we will start reading, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Nurbanu, for the concise summary. I'll just share quickly a practical way that I found um, practice with what we studied last week. So sometimes, alhamdulillah, so it definitely wasn't all the time yet, but sometimes as things were happening around me that were less than preferred, because it was also the beginning, like right, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tend to be, alhamdulillah, like easier to practice the halakah. I don't know what happens after that. But it was easier to look at things happening around me that were less than preferred and hear almost a voice saying, it's measured, it's calculated, those things that are happening around me that are outside of my control. And then there was a little bit of space with that realization. And in that space, I was able to pause and decide whether to react to the seeming face value, which I guess Imam Nursi has said in the past, like the face that points to the person or the ego of my own feelings and how I feel about what just happened. Or if I see it as qadar, as something, Dr. Yamina gave some beautiful words like taqdir, qadara, qudra, um, measured out within limits, with wisdom. I was able just to pause with the happenings that were less than preferred. And in that pause, there's like a little bit of space to make a choice then. And I felt like if you truly see it as taqdir, as this was measured out to happen in this way, then and it's like literally like a momentary pause, alhamdulillah, for the intention of wanting to practice and the barakah of his assistance, um, and the bounty of his assistance. But then I felt like this realization came that was if I see this truly as taqdir, as measured out, then I get to choose the face that points to God. Meaning, again, it's something that we've reviewed in the past for those that are not familiar with this, but the three faces that Imam Nursi says about creation that we've already talked about so far is the face that points to myself or my part in it, the face that points to the other person, their free will and how they choose to use it, and the face that points to God, like in that it was measured, calculated with wisdom and knowledge that benefits my eternal being to teach me that best in a way that best suits my eternal life. Um, so it came together beautifully with those realizations that if we truly and that it made sense like why belief in God, his messengers, his angels, his books, the day of judgment, qadar, because in the moment, if we're not seeing qadar, then it's so easy to lose sight of the purpose, God, his wisdom, his teaching me. Um, so alhamdulillah, I hope that makes sense and offers a bit of um, just summary.
SubhanAllah. It is easy when, at least at this stage, when something happens that is more than preferable for us to say, oh, subhanallah, this is qadar, this has been taqdir. For example, when Allah puts a time and a place for you to come together with your sisters, when each one of you needs a different type of support, and you could not have planned a coming together or reunion, and then all of a sudden everything happens and all of you meet, then it becomes very easy to say, or not easy, but it becomes clear to say, subhanallah, like the one who, out of his compassion and mercy and knowledge for the need that is in everyone to be supported and to be heard and seen, puts these people together so that his mercy and wisdom and love will be complete for them. But on the other hand, when things are not like you, I like how you say it, less than preferable, I like, it seems like it's chaotic, and it seems like you're dodging like fireballs, and it makes you angry, at least me. Uh, and and I like how Nurbanu said, I've been intentional about seeing what's happening as opportunities for me to do good. So maybe when we see those, what we perceive as fireballs, because they are less than preferable, if we could see them as training basketballs, tennis balls that are measured, knowing where you are in your spiritual muscle hell, and these are delivered to you intentionally to give you an opportunity to train. So, inshallah, that would be my niyyah for this coming week. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you for sharing that, Ali. I just want to piggyback off of this because I think this is where the growth happens, where we can lock into practical life. So yeah, of course, it's much easier to see the perfection and be like, wow, yeah, this is, look at the face that points to God, and see his perfect plan playing out. And yet here we are, and so khayrihi wa sharrihi, right? Like, I think that's what the ayah says, right? About his qadar, to believe in the qadar, you know, what is happening of it that is looks to goodness, and what's transpiring that appears like evil or harmful. Um, and I think that's what Nurbanu was mentioning with like step one and step two. Step one is like what's known. Like once that relationship becomes something that is, I know, I know his rahmah. Like I know how he has come through with rahmah consistently in the universe and in my life. So then in the unknown, like when I can really, and remember, a big review practically is like when things hit the fan, to say the least. um the first step is being humble to say, I don't know the wisdom, instead of rebelling. I don't know what can be, I have no idea what. And even just the tone and just the harshness and how we react, and it's completely forgetful of step one. Like, is this the same being that showed me all this love yesterday that I'm gonna flip on, today or tomorrow when I hear some news that is. So just the pause, a moment of pause is enough to just come to the first step that says, I don't know the wisdom, or I don't have the knowledge to understand what is happening. And I believe Dr. Yamina shared in one of the past halakas, like we need to ask for guidance on how to, because we need to admit and surrender in a peaceful way that we don't know. And just that little bit, just like a tiny step, offers a little bit of enough space to be like, okay, so let me turn back. And that's where the istighfar comes in, inshallah. Just wanted to tie those things.
Love that. Thank you, Sarah. Would anyone else like to share anything? Okay. Dr. Amina, would you like to add anything before we get started on reading?
We can go ahead and read, inshallah.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Furthermore, the well-measured proportions of everything clearly show divine determining. Yes, whatever living creature is considered, it is as though its form and measure emerged from a wisely and skillfully wrought mold. For it to receive such a measure, form, and shape, either there has to be a truly wondrous and infinitely intricate physical mold, or else pre-eternal power cuts out the form and shape according to a well-proportioned immaterial mold that exists in knowledge and comes from divine determining, and clothes it in it. For example, look carefully at this tree or that animal. You will see that the particles, which are lifeless, deaf, blind, unconscious, and similar to one another, are in motion in its growth and development. In some of the being's intricate extremities, the particles halt, as though seeing, knowing, and recognizing the place of fruits and benefits. Then, in another place, they change their direction, as though following some important aim. That means they're in motion in accordance with the immaterial, measured proportions of the tree or animal, which come from divine determining and are governed by those proportions. This reminds me of something that I learned maybe like 12, 13 years ago, and this has stayed with me for all those years. I met someone who had a relative that had this rare condition where their eyelashes grow inwards. So instead of curling upwards and away from their eye, it was curling inwards, and they had to keep trimming their eyelashes. And up till that point in my life, I had never even thought about how my eyelashes grew. And I always mention this to people because it's a measure of how much I'm taking for granted every day, and also highlights the mainstream way of thinking about what's being described here, which is that because almost everyone's eyelashes grow in this very convenient way, pointing away from my eye, and it's not growing like my hair, and it's not, like some other parts of my body. So there's a lot of wisdom in how even my eyelashes are growing. And for me to really recognize that and be thankful for it, I have to see an instance of that not being the case, which is this really rare disorder, that really makes you stop and say, okay, how come, right? My eyelashes are existing as though their forms and measures are emerging from a wisely and skillfully wrought mold. And why aren't they growing until they are 10 inches? Or why aren't they spiky? Or why aren't they this? Why aren't they that? Right? So this is the first thing that came to mind when I reread this. And I just love this as a point of reflection that the particles, which are lifeless, deaf, blind, unconscious, and similar to one another, are in motion in our growth and development. In some of the being's intricate extremities, the particles halt as though seeing, knowing, and recognizing the place of fruits and benefits. Then in other places, they change their direction as though following some important aim. So how come, right? This is kind of more absurd example, but I was talking to someone about, when you really like zoom in to human beings or any living beings, really, our atoms, they aren't touching each other. But there's something that keeps all of us together as one, like distinct units. So when Sarah and I hug, we aren't like mixing into each other, which is really cool. But it is like of course it's like such a fundamental way of our life and being that we don't really think about it. But when we go down into that level, we need to ask, why is it that my particles stop here and they know that they're a part of me, and Sarah's particles stop where she is, and they don't, like, just because she shook my hand, it doesn't become like, it doesn't transfer to me, Like when you imagine, it looks really absurd, but it is something that is worth thinking about, because they are acting as if they know where they need to go. They're seeing where they need to stop. They're recognizing the fruits and benefits of where they need to travel. Yeah. Okay, before I continue, would anyone like to share anything? No? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. That's an example that I had never heard. I never thought about my eyelashes, the direction that they grow. That is incredible. An additional thing to think about. The extremity is also something that come to mind. Like, our feet and hands. It doesn't have like a one cut shape. Like the fingers have particular shapes, and they're all functional. They have a purpose in being that long, that short. I guess the whole skin, the whole body is like that, every little piece of it. And it's interesting also because as an undergraduate, I did study some medical sciences for a couple years, and I think this shape was never addressed. That just the shape of it, and there's, of course, they didn't also acknowledge the all the other exquisite things happening inside the body, but there was a sense in which, well, things are well organized, or there's they have functions, purposes, but just the shape in itself has never been addressed. And why does how does the heart take that shape? And then it has to take that shape, and the cells have to go up to a certain point. And I like this invisible mold, like they are going up to a point and they're staying there and taking that shape. Either there is literally a physical mold, but we can't see it, and then that physical mold is holding that thing together, like not letting the cells go beyond. Or there's, which is not the case, because if it is physical, we should be able to see it. Or that there is really this immaterial planning that is really shaping the things the way they are. And there was this one scientist, biologist who looked into the shape, and he was unusual in doing so. But the theories he came up with, like he's trying to talk about shape, which is not talked about in biology. How does things take that shape? And he had this theory, but which is a kind of almost like a hypothesis. Didn't make sense. He said that the baby takes the shape of the mother because the baby is resonating with the mother. I remember I was sharing this with Dr. Yemini some years ago. She was like, okay, but why does it take the entire body's shape if it's about resonance? Why doesn't it become a liver, for instance? Why does the baby in the mother's womb take a human form and all the other cells and organs? So he didn't have a quite answer to the question, but he was at least raising the question, because what we tend to do in modern science is we avoid the questions that we can't even make up a name for, or make up a temporary placeholder for. So we just avoid that. But the leaf, the tree, the branches, our organs, our extremities, our eyelashes, they all clearly are being brought into being with measure, literally, even down to their shapes. It has to be all measured out.
Thank you, Shabla. Yeah, I think when you think about hands and feet too, right? Like, why do they look like that? Um, it's I think it's something that kids would ask, and you would just say, whatever, that's in our genes, that's how humans look or something. But that's not really an answer to the question, really.
And the word like qadar and the word qudra, like with the same root.
And
Like,
the proportion here is miqdar.
Did you want to say more, Alia?
Yes, Ali.
yeah, no, like
I-
even now you brought even another like derivative from this qadar. Qadar, like the destined fate, qudra, the ability, and miqdar, the proportion. They all have the same root.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm
Alaikum.
Elif. Maybe I can add a couple more words into it. As a physician, I do remember like cancer, we talk about like malignancy, cancer. It's all about not fitting in the mold of that particular space. Normally, there is programmed death. They literally use that term like it's programmed cells. It's to a limit. They multiply and then add up till there's like a bound border. They know it, and then they're programmed to be stop. They stop multiplying. But if they don't, they lose that ability. So the cancer, it's named as cancer. Like it's getting more and more in that space in the body. I just wanted to share this knowledge also with you.
Thank you so much, Alif, for sharing that, and Alia and Nurbanu and Isra. Well proportioned and miqdar of the toes, the fingers. As Isra was talking, I'm looking at my toes and my fingers. I'm like, like a mold that was thoughtfully measured, well proportioned. These are all very sophisticated words, each one involving very just creative, intricate, thoughtful planning and intelligence and wisdom and measurement. And so and he says that like a dormant form, the part that we had to reread in the beginning, He uses many different words. And when we talk about step one, the regularity, balance, adornment, differentiation, giving a form, each one of those offers you to observe a quality that you need to feel reassured about step two, which is the unknown. So here we are reflecting on step one, the known, looking again, which is what Dr. Yamina said. You stop and you look. You just set your gaze on the programmed death that Sister Edif just shared. You stop and you keep your gaze on the fingers or the toes or the easily adorned thing in front of you. And the just power plan measurement of that offers enough insight to lean into trust in our lives with the unknown. It's because we have to really, like Dr. Yamina says, milk the awe in these instances and carry that awe into trust trust in his qualities, like trust that this is also can all of these things be measured and well proportioned, and just this situation in my life just happens to be the one chaotic one that I don't like. Is that possible? Thank you guys for sharing that. That was very helpful for me.
Last week we had said the first kind of qadar is telling me like things are happening, like there must be a plan, right? Because I'm seeing the execution of that plan, and that goes well with what Elif shared, which is that even in secular language that's separated or is not informed by revelation, there is no way to reject or deny that there is a program, that they see this constant system that's reliable, that can be studied, and they're like, well, most of the time this cell acts like this. It's programmed to grow until here. It's programmed to stop this. And even uses this language of being programmed, designed, planned, but the planner or executor is out of the picture. But it is there for everyone to see. So wherever you're coming from, the wisely and skillfully wrought measures, forms, shapes. It's there. It's easily witnessable. So thank you, Ella, for sharing that. I think that was very, very insightful. Okay, I'll keep going. Dr. Yamina, would you like to add anything?
I'll carry on, inshallah.
Okay. Since there are the manifestations of divine determining to this extent in physical and visible things, certainly the forms with which things are clothed with, the passing of time, and the states acquired through the motions they perform will also be dependent on the ordering of divine determining. In a seed are two manifestations of divine determining. One is evident and points to the clear book, which is a title of will and the creational commands. The other is theoretical and points to the clear record, which is a title of divine knowledge and the divine command. Evident divine determining specifies the physical nature, states, and parts of the tree which the seed comprises, while theoretical divine determining specifies the stages, states, forms, motions, and glorifications which the tree will undergo and perform over the period of its life, and which are in the seed and will be created from it. These stages, states, forms, and acts, which constantly change and are called its life history, each have a regulated measure in accordance with divine determining, the same as the tree's branches and leaves. Okay, so this is the two kinds of qadar that we talked about, and this is like a detailed overview of what we had mentioned last week. And the way that Imam Nursi made this distinction is calling the first one evident divine determining or evident manifestation, points to the clear book, which is a title of will and the creational commands. The other is theoretical and points to the clear record, which is a title of divine knowledge and divine command. The first kind specifies the physical nature, states, and parts of the tree, while the theoretical divine determining specifies the stages, states, forms, motions, and glorifications which the tree will undergo and perform over the period of its life. So if you guys remember, it's not just what was being highlighted here is divine determining, right? Also includes the forms with which things are clothed with, the passing of time, and the states acquired through the motions they perform. So it's not just the end result or what will come out of a seed or an egg or whatever, but it's each stage and state they will go through in that life history, as he called it. Those are all also determined. We had a question from last week, and I'm wondering if it's good to ask it here or maybe wait until the end. But it was from Hannah, and she had asked on DNA and Qadar, but it's a bit similar to what we just read here. She had said, is a person built in a certain way to go through what is written for the overall universe and individuals be tested or around certain communities? So I guess one thing that comes up for me with this paragraph we just read is the theoretical divine determining, does it include just these like stages, states, forms, motions, glorifications physically, or is there more to this theoretical divine determining? Because I guess I don't see, now that we're explaining it this way. Last week, I kind of understood, okay, there's a known part, an unknown part, and the known part is important so that I can trust the unknown part.
Could the details, Nurbanu, be like one of the sharings in the weekly reflections was from one of our dear sisters who shared a TED talk in which the stages of molecular DNA that is being copied, that's going as we talk in our bodies in each cell. And the scientist was explaining, like, at every level what is going on and how they've been studying this for, like, hundreds of years, and the past 100 years and the past 10 and closer. What are they finding? That every time they see the details of one stage of what's happening, there's another level of details, and then there's another level of details. Could that be referring to this?
I see. So would what you get from the evidence, divine determining, be like, okay, I know that this seed will grow into an apple tree, and then as my knowledge on it deepens and there are new unknowns, I have trust that those stages and processes are also being planned and executed and under control in the same way.
Non-stop,
Mm,
every single cell, to levels that are beyond our understanding.
Not only the cell, but the interaction with the outer world and with the rest of the world. He says the first type of qadar looks to Kitab Mubin. So Kitab Mubin is al-awamir al-takwiniya, the creational commands. So Kitab Mubin doesn't look at, it's not the title of qadar, but the title of what has already been, what is being created. And it is by looking at the creation that we understand the creation is pointing, indicating the creational command, and therefore that everything is written, everything is planned. Just like if we look at a building, clearly, even we are sure that this building, before it could be built, there must be a plan somewhere. Someone had to sit and calculate and measure and everything very carefully for that building to be built and to be still standing in front of us. So the first one is that kind of qadar. The second one looks to Imam Mubin, and that's the qadar, that's the unseen part of the creation, and also the part that more or less we cannot, or we usually don't have access to. Yet we are sure that there is such a qadar, that everything, the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown, are all measured and all the result of the divine command, means they only exist by divine will, as a result of divine will. But if we didn't have the first part, we wouldn't be able to infer the second part and have certainty about it, even when we don't, before we see it, and even if we don't know it. Because we know that we don't know. Our knowing is limited. We only know what is being made known to us. And we are not here, we are not given that knowledge in order to become all-knowing, but in order to infer and understand that the one who is creating is in control and he knows everything, and everything is his, happening by his will and only his will. That's the knowledge that we are responsible for. We are not responsible. We are not even created to know everything in details.
Dr. Yemina, I want to add something about this because it kind of, your explanation just makes it perfect for me to understand because, we have been talking about DNA and everything. Okay, when people, when they have discovered DNA, the our genetic code, Human Genome Project and everything, they assume that, oh my gosh, when we know all this programming, all the coding, okay, and we are going to find the cure for everything. But in reality, everything is way more complicated. There's a known part and unknown part. And, we have genetics and epigenetics. So later, when they look at like identical twins, right? They do have the same genes. Everything is identical, like carbon copy, let's say. But in reality, they're not the same, with the same DNA, but two different personalities. And when they look at, especially when they study about the identical twins and everything, they discovered epigenetics. So there is an unknown story to the known story, which is DNA. So these epigenetic changes are gonna affect. The epigenetic changes are caused by like environmental factors, everything around you, and so now they. It's like, as you said, there's this maybe known part, but there's also unknown qadar, and only Allah knows it. So everything, I don't know. I just want to tell about this. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Mina. I think just that genetics and epigenetics and what we're talking about DNA, I think that language becomes so clear right now with the word code, encoded. I think we said the word encrypted before. And for me, they're just strong ayah words of infinite knowledge encoded into some weak, yani, like material, like filing what they say, unconscious, completely clear mirror. SubhanAllah. Nirvana, I'm not hearing you. Does somebody else hear her?
No, I'm not hearing anything.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Now we hear.
I'm sorry, guys. Technical issues today. I was just saying, what you said, Sarah, goes back to what Alia started with, right? Which was that the more we uh, know or get knowledge on, the more we realize we don't know. So the idea was once we figure out DNA or genetics, we'll have everything figured out. And then we realized, oh, that just opened a can of worms. There's all these other things that we don't know, we can't figure out. Yeah.
One last question in the chat.
Yeah, there is a good question in the chat. Well, does DNA not branch to personalities? And as far as I know, we know so little about even the most physical parts. How do they form? The shapes, for instance. How does DNA instruct a particular shape to an organ or tell which cell to go where? We actually don't know. I mean, we are thinking it's written in the DNA because it happens very consistently, but and that's even the kind of physical fact. And then our personality, in a popular talk, we do say, well, this person's DNA must have this in it, but actually, we don't trace a lot of the personality to the DNA.
The twin example is a good example.
Yeah, right.
They may look similar. The twins look identical, but their personalities are usually very different and unique. And the epigenetic part is that it is assumed that, for instance, you may inherit a tendency towards an illness, let's say diabetes. It's in your genes, but the way you live and your choices, your life choices, who you are, can make that gene will never show up. Or you have a high, let's say you have 90%, according to science, of course, 90% possibility of being of having diabetes, but because of the way you live, you never have it. And someone who has only 10%, but it's activated fully, and that person have it. So what does it really mean at the end of the day? So epigenetics is saying like most of your genes are there, but they are only possibilities. And those possibilities, if we accept that, because it's at the end of the day, this is only a code. I mean, if someone says, the recipe book I have in my kitchen is making the food, that's exactly what they are saying. But even if it were making, it's not happening that way, because it depends on our choices, who we choose to be, how we choose to live, and everything is going to make a huge change. For the moment, they say, like, I think less than 10% is from our environment. Mostly it is our choices. So it goes back to Qadar and free will, even in the language of materialist science. But yeah, DNA is just a code, a recipe. Even if it were written there, it does not mean anything, because the writing is like a recipe. It needs qudra, it needs power, enacting. Someone has to make it happen. That's why it's called qadar. It has to do with miqdar. In order to take a particular proportion in a particular order and to be, there needs to be qudra, power. And these words are all connected in the Quranic language.
Can I add one more thing? Also in mental health disorders, they explain the disorders with epigenetics. And because this is all, like, for example, the traumas, so they are saying it is not the trauma experience makes things this way, so many other stuff. So at the end we can explain it with like we are the ones kind of like zulm to our nefis. If we don't, other factors are important, not the thing we are experiencing, like a very bad situation, having some abuse or some other bad events in our life. Mainly how we perceive it. So many other stuff also is added on, and then with this way they're explaining why two people experiencing the earthquake, losing family, but one is totally suicidal, depression, and other is not, kind of. So they're also trying to explain it this way. Epigenetics, like so many other factors added on. And then at the end of the day, we can say with Qadar, it is not all about what Allah gave us to live this life, the traumatic experiences, but so many other stuff on our part. So we are the one kind of, I don't know, like zalim, zulm, doing to ourselves if we suffer from.
We are choosing whether consciously or often we're choosing unconsciously because we have beliefs and it's like our inner program, and that program is running our life automatically. But the whole thing, that's what is called ghafla in the Quran. And the whole thing is to update and edit that program to fit what we are taught in the Quran to live consciously. And part of this, we gave the example of the twins, but there is also the example of the dissociative identity disorder, where they found not only the same person has two totally different personalities, but also they had cases of the person having a very serious illness in one personality, and then one way they switch to the other personality, they are totally healthy. Subhanallah.
I love this technology metaphor. I think because I work in tech, so I feel like so many parallels can be drawn. But I just realized, if you use, most browser nowadays, they get updated pretty regularly. So Chrome, for example, you can get like the version of Chrome that people are using, and it updates pretty frequently. And the thing is, like, if you have programs that are dependent on using Chrome, all of those also need to be updated. Because otherwise, like, if you have different versions, they'll break. But I just, like, my mantra to myself, or like what I'm going to think about this week is, am I updating my own program? Like, what's running in the background of me, Nurbanu, and what needs to change? Because, for anyone who has a smartphone, what happens is after a few years, they make it so that your program becomes a legacy. Like, it's not supported anymore. And they're like, okay, you need to get rid of this phone. So the same way, like, even my phone needs these upgrades. So me, of course, I should be upgrading myself, so that I'm not living in this ghafla default mode, inshallah. Anyway, just love that. Okay, we're coming up to this summary of the third part. So, and we have time. Okay, let's read this paragraph, inshallah. Okay. Since there is such a manifestation of divine determining in the most common and simple of things, it surely demonstrates that all things are written before they come into existence. This may be understood with little attention. Now, evidence for the fact that the story of everything's life is written after its existence are all fruits, which in this world tell of the clear book and the clear record, and the faculty of memory in man, which points to the preserved tablet. These all hint and testify to this fact. Indeed, the appointed events of a tree's life are written in its seeds, which are like the hearts of its fruits. And man's life history, together with some of the past events of the world, are written in his memory in such a way that, as though copying out with the hand of power and pen of divine determining, in a faculty as tiny as a mustard seed, a small note from the page of his actions, the memory gives the note to man's hand and puts it in the pocket of his mind, so that with it he will call his actions to mind at the time of reckoning. So too, due to it, he may be confident that within the upheavals of transience and death, there are numerous lasting mirrors in which the all-powerful and wise one depicts and makes permanent the identities of transient beings, and truly numerous tablets which shall endure for all eternity, on which that all-knowing preserver inscribes the meanings of transitory beings. Okay, I want to read this part just again. Now, evidence for the fact that the story of everything's life is written after its existence are all fruits, which in this world tell of the clear book and the clear record, and the faculty of memory in man, which points to the preserved tablet. These all hint and testify to this fact. Okay, I see. So this example we have is the appointed events of a tree's life are written in its seeds, which are like the hearts of its fruits. So the seed grows into a tree, then it has fruits, and in the fruits are again seeds, which contain both the oh, go ahead, Dr. Yamina.
Sorry, carry on.
Okay. So the seed in the fruit of the tree represents both the seed that the tree came from and the tree that it can be if it is planted, right? So here we had evidence for the fact that the story of everything's life is written after its existence are all fruits, which in this world tell of the clear book and the clear record. And then the faculty of memory, so our ability to remember things, points to the preserved tablet. And so again, at the beginning, right, we're told that manifestation of divine determining are in the most common and simple of things. And they demonstrate that all things are written before they come into existence. Okay, and then here, similar to the tree, I think, this is what we have, right? So if we think of, again, a seed grows into a tree, bears fruit, the fruit has a seed in its heart. So there's this kind of perfect cycle. Similar thing is with our life history. Some of the past events of the world are written in his memory in such a way that, as though copying out with the hand of power and pen of divine determining, in a faculty as tiny as a mustard seed, a small note from the page of his actions. The memory gives the note to man's hand and puts it in the pocket of his mind, so that with it he will call his actions to mind at the time of reckoning. I was thinking about this just 2 days ago because I was watching a show and someone said one of the most fitri practices in Islam is the burial of the dead, like seeds. And I think this metaphor is also used by Imam Nursi, like after death, when we're buried, the life that we led here is like a seed being planted. And then in the new creation, whatever was packed into that seed is what will come out. That's what this made me think of, but I don't know if I'm stretching it because I was looking at this time of reckoning. Okay, and then let's look at the last bit, and then I'll open it up for discussion here. So two, due to it, he may be confident that within the upheavals of transience and death, there are numerous lasting mirrors in which the all-powerful and wise one depicts and makes permanent the identities of transient beings, and truly numerous tablets which shall endure for all eternity, on which that all-knowing preserver inscribes the meanings of transitory beings. So the identities and meanings of these transient beings can be made permanent and can endure for all eternity in this framework. So by, when we were studying the angels, one of the questions we were constantly asking ourselves was, how is belief in angels going to impact my life day to day? Like, how will this way of seeing the world improve my life? So here, what I'm seeing is one of these answers for belief in Qadar, which is understanding Qadar and believing in it with certainty will give me, right, a sort of confidence that even though I live amongst all this transience and death, there is a way to make things permanent and enduring when it comes to meaning and identity of these transient beings. Okay, so I'll stop there. We have about 10 minutes. Any questions and reflections on this last paragraph before we turn it over to Dr. Yamina? None, really?
I just want to say that this idea of things being written after they come into existence, events being written after they come to pass, this isn't something that I immediately think of. When I think of Qadar, I think of things that are going to happen, and it's written. And as we discussed for the couple, since the beginning of this topic, and how does it relate to our free will and so on. But this section is expanding it in the sense that it is both looking at things that are written before they come into existence, as we've just spoken, and now also after they come into existence. And I think I have a need for that as well. All of this is of course offered as a reflection on the Quranic passage that everything dry or wet, was it like that, written, big or small, everything is written.
ولا رطب ولا يابس إلا في كتاب مبين. That's why he keeps saying كتاب مبين إمام مبين. Mentioned in the Quran.
So and we do have a need for things to be written, to be recorded after they transpire, and then that reference to memory is a good one that I can follow, that it is a small example or a sample that I can recall so many things. Sometimes we all recall a kind of a moment, a fraction of a moment, or a tinge of feeling that you felt when that person said that to you when you were 12. You know, like so many things we forget, but there are certain things we remember so vividly from so deep into the past of our lives. That is an indication, a sample, as he says here, that things are preserved. And then sometimes you say something or do something and you totally forget. And then the person you said that remembers it and reminds you that you told me this 50 years ago. I mean, whatever, or in that context, or you did this to me. And why is this a need? I think it's relieving to know that nothing is forgotten. That that applies to injustices. Of course, that also brings a liability or responsibility to me as well. The things that I think are small and can disappear. You know, I said that, but no, that person was hurt for a while, but she probably forgot it, and we moved on, and I don't have to take responsibility for what happened. All of these wishful thinking also gets challenged. But inshallah, that's a good thing. It's good to remember that everything's written down before and after. It's a relief, it's a need for us, especially when we think of situations of justice or situations of beauty, that you had that beautiful memory. We're constantly taking pictures to kind of try to preserve or taking recordings, videos to preserve that moment. So it's a relief to know that things are being written or recorded as after they come into being as well. Even as it also lays more responsibility for us to watch how we are choosing, how we are acting in the world, because it's being recorded.
Yeah, I liked that emphasis, Ishrabla, that yes, we tend to think of Qadar as what's going to happen, but we have a need to also for what has been and what that means and that being preserved. Elif, go ahead, please.
Like, especially with this paragraph, it reminds me, like, for Qadar, we really need to understand Allah's standpoint. There's no time. So everything depending on our choices, our whatever they call like energy, like there are bubbles, we are kind of calling the options. If we are positive, calling for the positive bubbles, and it pop-ups, and then the good stuff, positive stuff comes in our Qadar. So already everything is lived, done, finished, but we are kind of here to witness what we chose, not to say in hereafter, oh, I don't remember, I do that, or kind of Allah is kind of having us to witness what we chose. So like we also mentioned about the Imam Mubin, Kitab Mubin, so I'm kind of also asking you, does it mean everything depending on our choices they are created in Imam Mubin, and then when it's time for it, they are coming to the Kitab Mubin, and we see it, we live it. Is it right? Am I understanding this Imam Mubin and Kitab Mubin in this regards?
Dr. Amina, do you want to jump in here?
In this paragraph, there is a emphasis on everything being written, and writing is not, of course, like writing in a book as we know, because he's talking about, for instance, the seed, the writing, and the human memory. So this writing is a special writing code that indicates something. Even in human writing now, we have the writing that we are used to, but we have also like programming. So it's a sort of programming, let's say.
Like programming is the Imam Mubin part,
No,
not here. Shahadat not
yeah,
came.
Kitab Mubin and Imam Mubin, both of them look to Kitab Mubin is whatever has already came into existence. We can see that it is written, and from there we know Imam Mubin looks to what is not here yet, and so we know that everything is written, whatever happens, because the biggest fear in human beings is the fear of the unknown, the fear of the future, including the fear of death. And lots of our life can be dictated by these fears that we are not even aware of. And this fear can only be addressed. It has been given to us, of course, for a purpose. But if we have no answer, then that fear becomes like a programming, and it programs our life, and it determines how we interact with, how we respond or react more to life. But it has been given to us to seek answers, to understand the meaning of life and therefore death, and also to be able to trust the unknown. And we can only trust the unknown if we learn to read the known as something that is being created, written purposely. It's not, nothing is random. So there is no need to fear or worry about the unknown, because I don't know, but the one who there is someone who knows, and I don't have control, but everything is under control, because we have these needs, but we misunderstand it as I have to know, I have to be in control, but there is no way I can know and I can be in control. I have no power, nothing. So the contradiction should lead me to surrender, to let go, and truly ask for the question, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, like whoever sent me here must have the answer. But if I never take these existential questions, these questions that are not necessarily articulated into words, but lived questions, if I'm not honest and I don't pause and accept the situation, even if I'm born Muslim, and even if I hear the solutions, those solutions remain out there as information and not as a lived reality. So the fact that everything is written is very important, because it means everything is meant to be. What does it mean? Someone who knows, who is in control, who has the power, is in charge. And then when we get to know him as the compassionate, the loving, the all-wise, then how we are in life is going to totally transform. The more we know this, the more we have less and less doubt about this reality, the more our anxiety is going to diminish, and the peace is going to increase. Of course, if we decide and make the choice and renew our intention and our choice to surrender to the divine will, because I may have no doubt that Allah is in charge, but I have no intention to surrender to his will, then it's not going to help me much. That's why surrendering Islam is so important. So here is giving the first example of the seed. And this paragraph before, in short, needs to be read again. First, how from what is already created, Kitab Mubin, we understand that everything that is coming, that looks to Imam Mubin, is also written, because the first one is the witness. When we witness this, then whatever happens, لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. They have no fear, and these believers who surrender in this way, who know God in this way, who can see that everything is written and muqaddar. It talks about muqaddarat. The wordings disappear in the English translation. There is no other way. Then they have no fear. These people, they have no fear and no sadness, no grief. Because they can see, this is part of reading the ayat as well. There are levels of reading the ayat, reading in the name of God, reading the signs.
Thank you, Dr. Mina. Okay, so I think, yes, go ahead.
Just here the writing, when we see the creation like this, that everything is indicating that everything is being written, then we will start seeing it's how, as things are coming into being, coming into existence, it's like the pen of power. He keeps talking about the pen of power. Qalam al-Qudra is writing. So the creation is the pen of power creating. That's how things are coming into existence. It's like be, and it is. It's someone is saying, and it is. And so the saying, it's not a random saying, it's a codified, well-measured saying. So it's a type of programming, a type of writing. Writing doesn't have to be always like we understand words written on something. I mean, the Quran is essentially recited. And the Mus'haf, what you write in the Mus'haf is like a memo to remember the Quran, but it's still called a kitab. So kitab there does not necessarily mean a book on the shelf, but an address. The divine address is kitab as well.
Sorry, sorry. Again, coming to this Imam Mubin and Kitab, I want to really understand the relationship between them.
We can read next time. I don't know if it's here, but somewhere in the Risale there is a long footnote explaining Imam Mubin and Kitab Mubin in detail.
What is the English?
Yeah, in English as well.
Oh, English word for Imam Mubin and Kitab Mubin.
The clear book and the clear record.
Oh, this is true, I think. Okay, and this is what I do remember one of the, again, around this class, Qadar. There are, for one more thing, there are so many options. Each time there are so many options, but only one comes true, is written. Like maybe like something like apple is becoming some way, but it might be in different color, different shape, different every in each detail, but always when it comes, one is picked by Allah. Like so, like maybe hundreds different options there. It is still somehow, I don't know what, maybe in the Imam, maybe in some place, but only one option comes true. Maybe it is what is written in the book. Maybe next time we have more time to talk about it. Thank you.
İnşallah.
I can try to find the footnote, Elif. And next week we will try to
Yeah.
read, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Thank you.
Okay, so hard work. I will share this paragraph again in the contemplations group, inshallah, so we can keep it in the front of our minds as we reflect and in our hearts and share those reflections so that we can all benefit, inshallah. Okay, let's end here for today, and we will meet again next Tuesday, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha ala rasulina salawat.